Someone dug up their grandfather's skull, covered it in clay, pressed shells into the eye sockets, and kept it in the house, coated it in wet clay, and set shell fragments where the eyes used to be. This was not one person's strange habit. Archaeologists have found plastered skulls at sites stretching from Jericho in the Near East to the river valleys of Central Europe. We are talking about communities that lived roughly 9,000 years ago, early farming villages, some of the first permanent settlements humans ever built. And in these villages, certain skulls were not left in the ground. They were brought back up, given new faces, and kept among the living. The process started with a deliberate choice. Months or sometimes years after a person was buried, members of the community returned to the grave and opened it. They removed the skull, not the whole skeleton, just the head. The rest of the body stayed in the ground. Then came the clay, wet, fine-grained, worked by hand until it was soft enough to press into every hollow and curve of the bone. They built up cheekbones, they shaped a nose, they smoothed a forehead. The goal was not abstract. They were reconstructing a specific person's face. At sites like Ain Ghazal in Jordan, the eyes were filled with cowrie shells or bitumen-darkened stone. The finished object looked back at you. Some households held multiple skulls. At Jericho alone, archaeologists recovered 7 plastered skulls from a single cache beneath a house floor. Here is the part that changes everything. Not every buried person had their skull retrieved. Most were left exactly where they were placed. The individuals selected tended to be adults. Skeletal analysis at multiple sites suggests a bias toward older individuals, people who had accumulated years, knowledge, and presumably influence. Both men and women received the treatment. This was not about gender. It was about something else, a role the person had played while alive that the community was not ready to lose. Think of the first generation to settle permanently in one place. Everything about who you are depends on who came before you and why this particular ground belongs to your group. The ancestor's skull was physical proof. It said, "Someone from our blood lived here, worked this soil, and is still here. The land is not empty. It belongs to us." At Çatalhöyük, in what is now Turkey, people buried their dead directly beneath the floors of their homes and then lived, ate, and slept directly above them. These skulls were not stored away in a dark corner. The wear patterns on the clay surfaces show they were handled repeatedly, picked up, passed between people, moved from place to place. Crucially, the find spots cluster near communal areas, places where food was shared, where groups gathered to make decisions. The ancestor was present at the table. Some skulls show evidence of use spanning decades. The clay was repaired, repainted, maintained. This was not a one-time ritual, it was an ongoing relationship. Someone in each generation was responsible for maintaining the face, keeping the clay from cracking, replacing a shell that had fallen. The dead required upkeep. Eventually, the skulls were redeposited, not thrown away, carefully placed in secondary caches, often in groups, as if retired rather than discarded. The care taken in final deposition, lined pits, grouped placement, specific orientations, tells us this was a deliberate ending, a formal goodbye that had been a long time coming. For most of human prehistory, people moved. When someone died, you buried them and kept walking. The dead stayed behind. That was the deal. Settlement changed that calculation completely. When you stop moving, the dead stop being left behind. They are right there, under your floor, in your walls, in the ground your children will inherit. The plastered skull was a technology for managing that new reality. It kept a specific person's presence active and legible at exactly the moment when the community most needed continuity. This was not purely grief. Grief is private. This was social infrastructure. The skull told everyone in the village who they were, where they came from, and who had the right to be here. Every culture since has found its own version of this. Portraits on walls, names carved in stone, photographs on mantelpieces. The impulse is the same. Keep the important dead present and visible. What they made, 9,000 years before photography, before painting, before any art form we would recognize, was a portrait. The oldest kind there is. The people who built these villages were figuring out for the first time what it meant to stay. And staying meant deciding what to do with everyone who could no longer stay with you. Their answer was to give the dead a new face, and keep the conversation going, which, when you think about it, is not so different from what we still do. Follow for more stories about the humans who came before everything we think we know.